day, everybody. I hope that you are well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today, we'll be doing our grade 3 English lesson on to be and to have. And before we start, we're going to log to aplusstudents.ca. Once we've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of language arts, grade 3. And then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of to be and to have. All right, so when it comes to the chapter of to be and to have, the verb to be is irregular, right? And when we say the verb is irregular, and then we mean that it does not follow any rules, right? So it doesn't follow any rules where they say you need to either add S, E, S, E, D, D, nothing, right? So which means that you are just going to have to remember the forms. So there's no rule that you need to follow at all. You're just going to have to remember the forms. For example, right? So we have our subject and then we have the present as well as the past, right? So basically, how we use the words, let's say in the present tense as well as in the past tense. So the subject, if we use, for example, I, or use you, we, or they, then we use the present tense forms of have. For example, I have, you have, we have, or they have. And in the past, we use the word had. For example, I had, you had, we had, or they had. And then if we use the subject, for example, he, she, or it, which is basically, let's say, singular, right? Then in the present, we use he has, she has, or it has. And in the past, we'll, for example, say he, she, or it had. And once again, like I say, that our verb, the verb is in the verb to be or the verb to have is irregular and it does not follow any rules that most verbs follow. So you're just going to have to remember the forms. So, for example, if you use the subject I, right? So when we use the word either to have or to be, right, and then we, for example, use the present tense verbs of have or has, right, or we use the past tense form of had. So, for example, I have. Let's look at an example. Um, Let me think. All right, so it's like, for example, where you say, I have 3 bags, for example, right? Um, or you say, you, oopsie. Let's say you either say you have, so it's like saying, for example, either you have a green bag, or in the past, we say you had a green bag, right? That is when we use the word either have or you use the word had, right? If we, for example, use the subject he, she, or it, then we can maybe say he has a red ball, right? Or in the past, we can say he had a red ball. So that is basically how we use the words to be or to have, right? Where the present tense is have or has, depending if it is in the if it's singular or plural. Like if it is singular, we use the word, the subject he, she, or it, and the present tense verb, which is has. And if it is plural, we use the subject I, you, we, or they, and or you, we, they, for example. And then we use the present tense form of have. And then both for the past tense, we just use had. No, not necessarily pronouns, right? It's like verbs, right? Because the verb changes. Remember, a pronoun, it takes the place of a noun. So it's basically the verb changes in the either in the present or in the past tense. But not pronouns, because pronouns is, say, for example, we had to just substitute your name, but not the pronoun. It's a verb that changes. Right? So basically the emphasis is mainly on these words. Like, for example, am or was or you or were or it or was, for example, right? So, for example, if we use the word to be, right? Remember our chapter is to be or to have, right? That is the verbs. So, for example, if we use the word to be, right? And then if we use the subject, because these are subjects, which is I. So these ones over here is all our subjects. So I, you, he, she, or it, we, you, or they. That's the subject. So if, for example, you say, you say I, it's like saying I am 10 years old or I am 12 years old, for example, right? So now when we use the word to be or the verb to be, then we say I, in the present tense, I am 10 years old, right? Or I am listening to music. And in the past tense, you say, for example, I was listening to music, right? So basically, the focus is mainly on the verb over here, and the focus is not on the subject itself. The only time the focus is on the subject is when it is either singular or when it is plural. Because when it's singular and then when it's singular, then we either use, for example, he, she, it is. That is singular. Now, if example say, if you maybe want to say that PK is listening to the lesson, right? Then we say he is listening to the lesson. If, for example, say PK, Adiam, and Kiara is listening, which means that it's they, right? Because it's more than you that is doing that, right? And then they say, then you can say they are listening to the lesson. And in the past, if it's only one person that is listening, we can say he, she, or it was listening to the lesson. And if we, for example, want to say more than two people were listening to, let's say, the lesson, then we say they were listening. So, which means that the emphasis is mainly here on the present tense form of the verb, which is either am, are, is, are, or or in the past tense, as well as to have. All right. So, do do we understand, or should I go over it again? All right. So the focus, like I say, it is mainly on the verb, right? And how we use and what form we use in the right context. But now when we go to, let's do this. Let's rather go to aplusstudents.ca, and then we will be able to do our different our lessons and sentences, and then we'll be able to see how we fit in either the forms of to be or the forms of to have. So we're going to aplusstudents.ca. All right, so we're starting with the lesson of to be, how we can use the correct form or to use the correct form. All right, so I remember we said that the focus is mainly on the verb, right? And verb is in the present tense. Let's say, for example, here they're saying you and Kristen, right? So you and Kristen, is that singular or is that plural? So basically that this is plural, right? Meaning that it's two or more. So which means that in order for us to get an answer, we are either going to have to choose between you and Kristen, that is in the past, was, or we're going to use the word were. So we're going to have to choose one of these words to put to our, for example, our, to add to our answer, right? So if it's, this is plural, right? And remember I said earlier on, it depends also if it's singular or if it's plural. So in this case, it's a plural form, right? Because it shows more than two people, or the subject is more than two or two people, right? So do we say you and Kristen was the last people to leave the party, or you and Kristen were the last people to leave the party? Yeah, so if we use the correct form of past tense, then we will say you and Kristen were the last people to leave the party. So as you can see, like I said, the focus is mainly on the verb, right? And that is why we say the verb to be or to have, right? So it's either, if we use, let's say, for example, we only had to say Kristen was the last person to leave the party. Then we were going to say Kristen was the last person to leave the party. But since it is you and Kristen, which is two people, then we say were, right? So if it was singular form, we would have used the past tense was, and if it's if it's part not singular, if it's plural form, which is more than two people or two people, then we use the past tense were. All right. Okay, yeah, we have another one. It says they sitting under the tree in our backyard. They is plural, right? Or they are plural. So are we going to say they was, or do we say they were? Which one is going to be the correct one to add to our answer? Do we say they was or they were? So we will then basically say they were sitting. They were sitting under the tree in our backyard because they is plural form, right? And we said if we use the plural form they, we use the past tense form of were. And if we, for example, only had to use the singular form, right, we would have said it was. So well done. Were is correct. All right, so we're going to use the present tense form now. And it says it, amazing. It, amazing how many new friends the toddler has learned, new words the toddler has learned. So we need to choose between it is amazing or do we say it are amazing? We need to choose one of these two verbs to add to our answer. Do we say it is amazing how many new words a toddler has learned or it are amazing how many new words a toddler has learned? This is now in the present tense. So we're either going to use is or we're going to use are. This is in the present tense. If we use the past tense, we used either was or were. That's in the past, right? But now in the present tense, we use is or are. So in the present tense, do we say it is amazing how many new words a toddler has learned? Or do we say it are amazing how many new words the toddler has learned? So do we say it is amazing how many new words the toddler has learned? Or it are amazing? All right, so we will then use the correct form and say it is amazing how many new words the toddler has learned, right? That is why I was saying earlier on, remember that our it's basically the verb, right? The focus is on the verb. That is why we say to be or to have, right? That is the verb that we focus on. So our verb will be depending on what our subject is, if it is singular subject or if it is a plural subject. And in this case, it is singular, right? So if it's a singular subject, then we say it is, for example, or he is, or she is, right? That is in the present tense. But in the past tense, if it is singular, we say, if it's plural, in the past tense, sorry, we would say it was, or he was, or she was. And then if this was plural, right, then it would have been are. So it is amazing how many words the toddler has learned. So well done, guys. All right, let's go to our test. Right? So we're going to go to our test and we're going to complete the sentence with the correct present tense form of the word to be, right? So now we're going to say they. Do we say they are outside in the fort or they am outside in the fort? So they are outside in the fort or they am outside in the fort. Okay, that is also a sentence, yes, but that is not how we use, for example, that word are. Because here we're using the word are or is as a verb, right? And the question or the sentence that you are making is, are you going to be home? So basically, there's another word, another verb within that sentence. So they are outside in the fort or they am outside in the fort. Remember also when you read the sentence, it also needs to make sense, right? No problem, Judy. So they are outside in the fourth, and we're specifically saying they are because we made mention that if you're plural, if the subject, right, the person or thing that we're talking about is plural, this indicates it is more than one person, right? Then we use the word are. But if this was singular, we would have said is, right? And we use the word am if we, for example, want to say I am, right? Do we understand? So plural form, it's either they or you can say the two people's names. Then we say they are. And if we, for example, want to use the singular form, for example, say is, he, she, it, then we say is, right? And here we use, if we use the verb am, we say I am, right? So I am. And even if you use the word you say you are. So whether you refer to one person, like if, example, if I say, I'm not sure if I'm going to be um pronouncing your word, your name right, PK, Pragya, right? So if I, for example, make mention of you only, right, then I say you are writing sentences, right? But I'm only referring to you, right? But I say you are. Or I can even say you as in referring to more than you, more than one person, and I still say you are, right? All right, so now we're moving along. So we can say they are outside the fort. So well done. Are is correct. You. This is now in the past tense, right? This is in the past tense. Do we say you were the star player in the game against the Eagles, or you was the star player in the game against the Eagles? You were or you was? All right, then if we choose the correct form or the past tense form of to be, then we're going to say you were the star player in the game against the Eagles. If we had to use this in the present tense form, we would have said you are. But well done. In the past tense form, you were the star player in the game against the Eagles. And were is correct. So well done. All right, so now this is singular, a singular form, right? So, and we need to complete the sentence with the correct present tense form. So, do we say he is excited about the trip to Mars, or he are excited about the trip to Mars? This is singular. He is excited about the trip to Mars, or he are excited about the trip to Mars. So he is or he are excited about the trip to Mars. All right, so if we are going to complete the sentence with the correct present tense form of to be, and then we're going to say he is so excited about the trip to Mars. And remember, we said that if we use the singular form, which is either he, she, or it, and then we use the present tense form of to be, which is, and if we use, for example, the plural form, which refers to more than one person, we say are. So he is so excited about the trip to Mars. All right, we need to complete the sentence with the correct present tense form of to be. And is correct. Well done. So the present tense form, do we say we are or we am? This is plural. We are usually on vacation for the whole month of August, or we am usually on vacation for the whole month of August? All right, and that is correct. We say we are usually on vacation for the whole month of August, and we being plural, referring to more than one person, and we use the word are. Remember, we use the verb am when we, for example, say I am. All right, we need to use the correct past tense form of the word to be. You. Do we say you was or you were curled up under your blankets last night? So you was or you were curled up under your blanket last night. You. Remember, I made an example earlier on, and then I said that even if I'm just addressing um PK, right? Please don't mind if I hope you're okay if I just use your abbreviated name. So I made an example earlier where I said that if I just address PK, then I say you, for example, you were, right? If it's with I'm just talking to one person, so I'll tell him you were doing great, you did great in your test, right? Or not you did, you were amazing last night in your what is this, recital, right? So even if I just refer to one person, or if I refer to more than one person and I maybe say you did well in your test, then I can refer to more than one person. Then I say you were. That is not in the past tense, right? All right. So it's you were. That is whether we're referring to one person as you or referring to more than one person as you, right? So do we say you was curled up under your blanket last night, or do we say you were? It's either you was or you were. All right, and we will say you were curled up under your blanket last night. So well done, guys. All right, now we're going to have, right? And now our verb is going to change when it comes to have, because our verbs are either yes. So now our verb is either going to be in the present tense, it's either going to be have or has, and in the past tense our verb is going to be had. So if we, for example, if our subject is either I, you, we, or they, right? Then you can make then you use the present tense form of the verb have. So for example, I have a blue bag, right? Or you have red socks, or we have ice lollies, or they have um they have iPhones, right? So we use the subject I, you, we, or they with the present tense form of the verb, which is have, right? And if we make mention of one person, which is singular, then we're either going to say he, she, or it has, right? So he has, or she has, or it has a mongoose bicycle. And that's the only thing I can think of. But now, if we either make mention of the singular or the plural form of the subject in the past tense, then both singular as well as plural form of the subject will both the past tense will be had, right? So either I had, you had, we had, they had, or singular we say he had, she had, it had, right? Is that the comment, Judy, where you asked to wait while you take notes? All right. So the verb to have is irregular, right? And we said when it's irregular, then it does not follow any rules. So which means that you're just gonna have to remember the form of that verb, right? And like I say, you're either gonna have to remember, do I use have in the present tense or has in the present tense, or do I use had, which is in the past tense? Here it says, complete the sentence with the correct present tense form of to have. So complete the sentence with the correct present tense form of to have. So do we say, for example, oopsie, do we say he have, or do we say he has a good part in the play? You need to use one of these. He have a good part in the play, or he has a good part in the play. Which one is the correct one? I don't understand, Judy. I really don't understand. Remember, the comments is not numbered, so if I go all the way up, and then it means that then I don't know where specifically you want me to read, unless it's the one where you said that you are. I need to wait for you while you're taking notes. Is that what you're making mention of, Judy? Are you saying I need to wait for you while you're making notes? Remember, this class is it's a live recording, which means that you can always go back again and you can go into the recording, and you can basically play the recording again on your own. Because remember, the I don't mind waiting, but then it means that everybody is going to wait. And I feel like um I've been teaching on the pace of all of you, so I haven't been going fast. I've been going quite slow. So that is why I'm saying that this is a live recording, which means that you can always go back anytime and you can basically um, go over the live classes, and you can go over what we taught today. And we actually waited on you. We literally waited on you for a long time, and then I just went on explaining so long. No, you don't have to stop the live classes, but I'm just saying that by the time that the live class is done, And then you can always go back into today's lesson at this time, and then you'll be able to replay it without the lesson, without being in the lesson, because it's a live class. It's like going on YouTube and you'll still see that YouTube video on there. All right, can we continue, please? Okay, so we need to complete the sentence with the correct present tense form of to have. Are we going to say he have a good part in the play or he has a good part in the play? All right, so we will basically say he has a good part in the play. All right, so basically, before we end our lesson or our session, we said that we use to be and we use to have, right? And remember, when we use to be or to have, the focus is mainly on our verb that changes, right? So we will use the specific word either based on if it's singular or if it is plural. If our subject is singular or plural, then we need to know which specific verb to use. And that is why we say it is irregular. So you are going to have to know or remember the forms, because there is no rule that said that you need to know this, that, and the other, right? All right. That is now the end of our lesson, grade 3. Thank you very much for joining the class. I really hope that you do have a better understanding of the of to be as well as to have. Um, till next time. Goodbye. Oh, and Monday's a holiday. So have a good weekend further. Goodbye.